Welcome to GovCon Unscripted, where we dive into the unfiltered stories and strategies from all around the world of government contracting. Join host Chelsea Roberts as she explores how to navigate, thrive, and win in this complex but lucrative industry.
All right, welcome back to GovCon Unscripted. I'm your host, Chelsea Roberts, CEO of Collaborative Compositions. And this week we are again on the road to HUBZone with Eric Coffie. Eric, remind us, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Eric Coffie. I do a couple things, but what I'm most known for is helping small businesses. I've got a free YouTube channel where we've got thousands of videos teaching small businesses how to work with government agencies, particularly the federal government. I'm also known for a podcast that I have where I've interviewed a couple hundred of the top small businesses and government officials. So a couple hats I wear, but now, again, we like to say that we're advocating, right? And so that's why the HUBZone conference has always been important to me. They're a big advocacy group on policies. And so something new for me, right? I've always just been teaching and showing people how to do things, but now we're getting more into helping with the advocacy side and policy.
I love it. I love it. And that is one thing that the HUBZone Council is known well for is their advocacy and their hand in shaping policy. So I'm excited to see what comes out of this year's conference. I think it's going to be a big gathering of folks that are going to be all discussing the things that are important and impacting HUBZone, especially those small HUBZone business policies that are changing so much right now. And especially with all of the focus and all of the scrutiny that a lot of the other sort of set aside programs have come under. And I know that you're tracking a lot of that scrutiny and a lot of the changes that have happened with the other set aside programs. And I'm just curious, what's on your mind with all of those changes and how's that coming? And how's that to pertain to HUBZone?
I will say this is something I learned a long time ago. There's nothing new under the sun. And every program that has been created has been challenged. Historically, I learned the first time a few years back when they challenged the 8A program. When they did that a few years back, one of my clients said to me, Eric, if you go back in the 90s, they had another type of program that was challenged. And I think that we don't have a good take on history. And so because of that, we don't see these things. And so we feel like this is the first time it's ever happened because it's the first time we've ever experienced this. But these has happened historically across all the different programs that have ever been invented. So when we look at our country, we are people that challenge taxation, right? We're kind of like, argh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we've kind of always been divided on different things. And I think this is nothing new, these programs and creating any type of incentives for groups that might be disadvantaged or disenfranchised. That has always been a hot topic for politicians and government alike.
Yes, definitely. And I would say that's definitely an area that we see quite a lot of healthy discourse in, and we see quite a lot of just general debate and conversation happening. There's a lot of that. But one thing that's stuck with me about the HUBZone program in particular is that I think it's the only program that isn't based on a personal aspect. It's not based on an individual. So it's more based on locations and
Yes.
more geographically distributed.
Yeah.
So do you think that helps make it a little bit more tolerant to weather some of the changes and some of the discourse?
It's interesting because something else that I said that, and again, I know I can only say it on your show, right? Where when a policy is produced by one party, the other party doesn't like it.
Of course. It only
So
happens.
it could be the same policy, but it's introduced by this party, so the other party doesn't like it. And then when it's introduced by the other party, vice versa. And so for me, I do think that, yeah, geographic location helps. But when this administration that's currently in hand now introduced the opportunity zones that were similar roadmaps to the HUBZone, then it took favor with people that had interest in deferring their capital gains taxes and things like that. So it then attracted a different crowd of people to the HUBZone.
Interesting.
So a different audience. And I think that we see that with a lot of these policies that are in place. So for me, yes, I do believe that does, yeah, what you're saying, give it some merit. But I think also the fact that both parties have had their kind of hands in the same districts,
Yeah.
but giving it titles that are more appropriate to their groups or their constituents that they favor is really,
Sure.
to me, the bigger picture of this whole thing, not necessarily that it's just based on geographic location.
Oh, so it's more of a terminology situation that we're dealing with
To
here.
me, it's a terminology, right? So one
Yeah,
group says opportunity zones, another group calls it hub zones. Everybody
yeah.
wins. So if we could effectively do that in other programs, then I think we have the same outcome.
I love that. That's a great way to look at it. If we can bring both folks from both sides of the table into the conversation and effectively help them communicate more effectively with each other and help them communicate more effectively via policy documents, I think that's just a win-win across the board.
One of the things that I think that the current administration is doing, and going back to what you're saying, I'm keeping up with it. Have you seen where the SBA now is, they're doing a agency-wide restructuring to formally establish a dedicated faith office, right? Where they're talking about faith office to improve service delivery, capital access, and counseling for faith-based communities. So again, taking the same organization and making it favor a group or constituents that one particular party likes, it doesn't dismantle the organization. It just makes it a win-win for everybody in a sense. And so for me, that is another example of them rebranding these structural programs that we have in place. And I don't know if that's good or bad because we don't know until the outcomes happen later on what is the result net effect of that. And I think to say that we do know or be upset about it, it's very presumptuous and very egotistical of any of us to do. Because I'm not a newscaster, so I'm not trying to predict the future. I can't say that this is going to have a positive outcome or net benefit to us 4 years from today. I don't know.
No, you just have to have faith, right?
And so people will say, oh, this is terrible. They're getting rid of this, they're getting rid of that. I don't know if we know that is terrible because the numbers aren't out yet.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if we look at anything in a short term, then we would probably not have SpaceX and rockets because they blew up when they first started. We probably wouldn't have Ferraris and Lamborghinis because they crashed on the rail tracks when the guy was first trying out those cars. So a lot of things we probably would not have if we measured them based on when they first were being produced or came out. Same thing with electricity. I know that homes caught on fire and like until we figure this whole thing out, you can't really draw a real absolute conclusion. At least I can't.
Yeah, you have to have something that gives you some actionable, repeatable outcomes that you can see and that you can find out if it's going to be valuable or if it's going to be harmful. You can't just judge it based on a one-time effect.
I see that. Yeah. Everyone is like capturing these things in a snapshot, right? Like this happened today.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that had to happen.
Yeah.
It's like a movie where they said, if you could go into the future and then change the future, that might actually hurt it, not help it, because that was supposed to happen.
I've watched this whole thing on Netflix with James Franco, and it was like the 1969 or something like that. And it was like based on him just going back and having to prevent the assassination of JFK. And it was like, if you prevent that, everything will be great. The entire world will end up just perfect. And then he did it and he came back and it was like the entire apocalypse was going on in real time. And it's like, you can't actually predict the effects and the outcomes of things that didn't happen or that are happening in real time because you've got to wait to see what the outcomes are and what the actual effects of that are. You never know. It could end up being a change of tide for everybody and it could end up being a great thing.
That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah.
I know everyone doesn't agree with me. Your analogy is very sophisticated. I think about Back to the Future.
Yes,
that too. McBride, he goes back to the future. Wait, let me stop this from happening. But if you stop that, then this future thing that was supposed to happen won't happen.
Yes.
So I'm like a Back to the Future kind of guy. 5.
I love it. I love it. A little before my time, but I love it.
Before our time. But that means we don't know the movie didn't come out.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious, what are you excited about for this year's HUBZone conference?
One thing I like about HUBZone is that whereas I go to a lot of other conferences, HUBZone does bring in people to talk about the policies and the things that are happening and what's shaping the new process of how they're looking at things. And so I'm very curious to hear from current leadership on the same things that we're talking about, right? How are they seeing it? How are they viewing it? One of the things that I still am unclear about is what are they doing in terms of approving 8A applications, right? That keeps getting kicked down the curb. I know that they're still giving out contracts, but I'm curious with the new backlog of firms, is there anything out there that we can do to help nudge things along? Maybe there's some insight. I'm also always excited because to be honest with you, I've met some of the people that I still keep in contact with that had booths and exhibitors. I could think of, for example, several people that I met there, and then we ended up doing a podcast and talking about their programs and things like that. So some of the labs I met at HUBZone, Boeing, and some of the other like large primes. So for me, it's a good like posh hodgepodge of primes, government officials, and then people talking about policies. Again,
Yeah.
those are my interests as well. So where I've gone to other events, they more glitter.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's more glitter than substance,
Yeah.
right? And so here I've always found a way to get substance out of the event.
I love that. And you're absolutely right. There's quite a lot of a glitter, flashy talk.
Yeah.
It's a very PAO polished speech that they are all well worded and giving out. And you can probably find those same words in a bunch of publications that came
True.
before it. And
Yes.
not a lot of it's new and it's not like leading and it's very just cut and dry and what you expect to hear.
I think like it went through the attorney's brush first.
Yes. Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah.
All went through several layers of attorneys and watered down to where that's not substantive. Whereas when I go to HUBZone, they tell you the real deal.
I love
That's
that.
just been my personal take.
Yeah, and this is going to be my first year at HUBZone, which I'm really
Mm.
excited about. And I love me a good policy discussion. I think that's really when you get down to the meat of the business is when you're really going to start to see some people open up and some conversations open up that you just haven't been a part of or you haven't been able to hear just firsthand because you haven't been in them. You haven't been in those rooms. So I think that this gives folks a room to have those conversations, which I'm really excited about. I'm also excited about because I have seen the list of exhibitors and sponsors and stuff, and there's some big businesses and some businesses that I think of that are more typically commercial, like John Deere and AstraZeneca and Quest, and some of these very large businesses that we know, but I think of them as traditional government contractors, and they're involved in this HUBZone community, and they're out there supporting and sharing some of the HUBZone values and trying to work with some of those smaller HUBZone companies to affect their businesses and their outcomes and their goals. So I'm excited to see some of the conversations that happen between some of those, what I would consider typically non-traditional primes, to working with some of those more HUBZone companies out there that are really trying to strive and grow to be bigger and have bigger, better teaming partners. So I'm excited about those conversations that are going to happen.
Yeah, no, they've always been able to attract that group of folks. So I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen it. They've always
Yeah.
been able to attract that kind of people. And that's why I said I've met a lot of those organizations at HUBZone.
You mentioned when we talked about this early on that you have a kind of special guest coming. Are you willing to share anything about that and give us a sense as to who we might be able to hear from on that side of the fence?
For me, I'm hosting a panel at
Yeah.
HUBZone. I like to bring people that are like industry leaders
Yeah.
at the forefront. We rarely get a chance to, again, in my opinion, I consider myself a regular person, a normal small business. But,
You never know.
but we just really rarely get a chance to talk to people that successfully exit a company for a significant amount of money, has basically led and created billions of dollars and available assets to small businesses and minority businesses. And so for me, I was able to convince the CEO of one of the top lenders in the country to come down and speak about his journey, his experiences. He sold his last company. But again, at that time, they're lending out roughly $10 billion a year, 50% of that going to minorities. So you just don't get a chance to meet people like that in everyday life. And I had the fortunate privilege and pleasure to get to know him as an individual, to know his family, and also to know the company and the new entity that he started that is currently lending out nearly $3 billion in assets. So I know people who've already been able to exit their companies because of what they've been able to do. This is a world that I think a lot of us as small businesses don't live in, right? Where if you were to go to Silicon Valley, you meet those kind of people that run these big venture firms. And if you go to New York, you meet hedge fund people. But in our communities of what we're doing, I think we really get a peek in the side of world of people who put that kind of money annually on the table for deals and access to capital, and more than that, just access to resources to be able to grow and scale. And so we typically have to get to a certain size of business before we can get like a JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs to talk to us. I know because I have friends that work there. You gotta have 1 million in accounts. You
Yeah.
gotta have 5 million in accounts before you get
Yeah.
that level of coverage. So we're bringing someone like that that has the same stature, and has probably put more money in the streets than the people that you're dealing with to the table so that we can all meet and talk to them.
That is very exciting. I can't wait to hear from that person. That sounds
Yeah.
like it's going to be a high dollar conversation. And I got
Yeah.
some dollar signs kind of cha-ching, cha-ching in my eyes here right now. I'm like, I want to hear all the ideas that guy has because he's got.
Yeah. If you can build an organization to where you're putting $10 billion to work, deploying that kind of capital per year annual for 10 years, I think we also want to hear from someone like that who
Absolutely
is putting capital in the hands of people like us, like not putting in the hands of other wealthy people. He's putting in the hands of businesses and small businesses, medium-sized businesses like ours and the ones that HUBZone serves. So I think having someone like that at the forefront and all what they've seen and experienced. I learned that early on in my career from a mentor of mine. He said that if you can hire whoever you want as your lawyer, as your accountant, right, hire people that are working with the type of businesses that you would like to be or strive for. So if you're striving to get to whatever level, you want to work with organizations that support companies that are at that level, right? And so I don't think you can get anyone that is of this person's caliber at the level he's at, supporting kind of business that he's supporting, and then have direct access to be able to communicate and talk to them.
No, I think that's fantastic. And the fact that you're able to bring that caliber of individual and to bring that to such a crowd that will appreciate it and obviously have a lot to gain from it, that's tremendous. And I can't wait to sit in on that panel, and I'm really excited about it. So what's your panel called? What's your panel on?
It's Building for Scale, Innovative Growth and Funding Strategies.
I love it. I love it. That's what everybody needs right now, right? They need some innovative ways to grow and they need funding for that growth. So that's a standout topic that I'm sure everybody's going to want to attend at this year's HUBZone conference. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. And we have that particular individual, and then we have another person who also built a company up to 200 million a year and exited that firm on my panel. So I got some heavy hitters on my panel.
That's a big deal. Like that's
that's
very exciting. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
full lesson, sure.
Oh, it's going to be great. So, yeah, I'm excited for it.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure you're looking forward to it. I'm sure you're going to have a great panel, and my panel is going to be on teaming and innovative teaming strategies and structures. So I'm looking forward to talking about that as well. We've got some great folks that are going to come in and jump in and participate. You might even be one of those folks that we call up to the teaming booth and have a conversation with. So you're always willing to talk.
I'm always willing to talk. I'm always willing to share my expertise, my knowledge, my insight. I beg people to suck this out of me. I mean, when I got all this information in my head, at least they can extract it, right? Again, take this recording that we're doing now, throw it in AI and get a summary and get something actionable playbooks against it. That's the way that I do things.
Exactly.
Start building yourself a library of notes on how to execute at the highest levels.
100%. And that's what we'll encourage everyone to do, especially with this episode and especially at the upcoming HUBZone conference. Get prepared and be on your game when you get to meet some of the folks that you're going to connect with, because that's going to be some of the best connections that you're going to get the opportunity to make all year. This is the policymakers. These are the folks that have their hands in the pie while they're making the pie. And the folks that are around there supporting the whole kitchen. They're out there supporting the HUBZones. They're out there supporting the organizations that are supporting the HUBZones. So there's a huge opportunity here to connect with the folks that you need to connect with to make the most out of not only this event, but make the most out of all the other events that you're going to for the rest of the year, and just make the most out of the rest of the year that we're coming to a quick end here to our fiscal year. So all those folks that are trying to capitalize on fourth quarter, HUBZone conference, hit it up and make sure that you get your name out there and you get some leads out there, because there's going to be some great folks that'll have the opportunity to push some buttons there for you.
Yeah, for me, I definitely want to hear the conversation about manufacturing. That's a place where we're pushing more towards in our government. So I have a couple of companies that I know that previously were in manufacturing. And so I've been talking to them about coming and attending for the purpose of learning more about all the different programs that are coming out with manufacturing and made in USA. So that's another thing that I'm looking forward to personally.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I've got a client right now that's in advanced manufacturing, and they are a prime target for that type of funding and those actions that are coming out. So I'm tuned in and keen to hear what's coming out in that realm of the world as well. So I'm really excited about that too. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person, and we'll have to get coffee or a beverage or some other thing, dessert at some point. And yeah, that's going to be great. And I think everybody out there should pay attention to HUBZone. Get there, get your boots on and go to HUBZone and make sure you make the most out of this conference. It's going to be a great conference this year. And hey, Eric, I really appreciate you jumping on to talk about it.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the road to HUBZone, and come back to tune in next week to GovCon Unscripted. All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of GovCon Unscripted with your host, Chelsea Roberts. Do you have a GovCon story or need guidance in government contracting? Connect with Chelsea on LinkedIn to be a guest on the show or to enhance your business strategy. Don't forget, your network is your net worth. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with your growing GovCon community.